Welcome to What? That Old Queen? A candid and adult take on queer life quandaries at a certain age and in a certain dystopian future that we all find ourselves in at the moment. So welcome to the first of our weekly shows of What That Old Queen. We're going to be keeping you company and trying to lift your spirits during this unfathomable crisis that we're all going through. So, we're going to have all of our regular features. A Kinky Blink, which might be that old kink. We've got Queens of Agony still, while we still can. And Shnack out of it is a little bit redundant, but we'll try and show you some ways that you can spread some of the ingredients you got left in your larder. So, Tommy will be joining me shortly. We are practicing social distancing at the moment, so he's joining me by interstellar link up. And as I say, this is the first in a weekly session that you'll have with the Old Queens. And what I think is really important at this time is that you interact with us. So please do send us messages on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or email us during this period so we can keep the program fresh, and we'll try and stay here for as long as we can to try and lift your spirits and keep you company, whether you're at home with loved ones or home alone like me and Tommy. As I said, Tommy will be joining me shortly, so we'll be back after this. Hi, Tommy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
So, well, I'm all right, but I just read on one of the social media platforms that this coronavirus is affecting people in lots of different ways, and so you need to be wary that. And the most susceptible people to this are middle-aged men. They said middle-aged straight men actually are very likely to do a podcast, and please don't do it.
So that's why we're in separate parts of the country doing this by interstellar link up. Yeah, good. Well, I think it's a social.
Not the country.
Well, different parts of the city.
Yeah. I mean, we're not that far away, but you couldn't hear me if I shouted.
I have bugged your flat. I've been there several times, so I know everything that goes on in your flat, as we demonstrated yesterday.
Yeah, and I was trying to get my parents on the Zoom platform. Suddenly, Bernie was listening in to our conversation. So now you know how I speak to my parents.
You speak to your parents how we all speak to our parents, especially when they're having like an IT breakdown.
Yeah. They said today that I was very patient and I wasn't like my brother.
They said you were very patient.
Unlike my brother.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I could hear in your voice you were losing your patience. Anyway, so we've got some of our usual features slightly changed because of the situation that we suddenly find ourselves in stark contrast to the last time we recorded. How are you finding this social distancing?
I'm finding like aspects of it quite easy, and I can fill my day quite easily with interactions online, and like I've decorated the flat and stuff like that, and I've been going out running, and I've just been, I've thrown myself into it, and I've been making the best of the situation. I feel a little bit sexually frustrated, and I think that's going to get worse.
I think we're all feeling slightly sexually frustrated, but we have a few suggestions for that coming up later on. Yesterday, you did some online shopping, didn't you?
I did for wine.
Well, there were some other items as well, weren't there?
Yeah. Well, I just thought that I should try and get a dildo finally and see what that was about, really. So that's hopefully on its way.
Oh, it hasn't arrived yet?
No, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you.
You'd be away with the dildo.
Well, someone was saying that, like, working from home is a bit of a what's the word? I was going to say pseudonym. Euphemism for masturbation.
Yeah, it's what I've been doing for months. So,
How are you finding it?
Well, I haven't done as much as you have. This is week 1, Tommy. You've done all that stuff.
I'm cramming everything in, and I'll be bored by week 2.
Yeah, you need to kind of level it out a bit, I think. I find it quite difficult to be socially distanced from people. I think it is quite difficult if you live on your own. If you're living with other people, I think it's kind of easy because obviously you have other people to interact with. But yeah, keeping in contact with people over the phone and video chats.
Like, for me, it feels really good to be connected with you personally, because we're in exactly the same situation. So I feel like you're a bit of an ally in that. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. But, I guess we have to get through. I'm going out as much as I can while we still can. Bars and clubs have just been told to shut down as of tomorrow. Not that many people were going out into them. I think it's quite sad, and I kind of think that I feel like we took for granted the life that we had like last week even. But hopefully it will be coming back to us in a similar form after this crisis is over.
Really hope, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. We've got time because both of us are kind of out of a job because of this situation. So if you are rich and you do fancy bunging us some cash via our Patreon account so that we can keep this podcast going, that would be amazing. But anyway, what have you got for me this episode, Tommy?
Yeah, well, in my new feature, What That Really Old Queen, I'm going to introduce you to Chevalier de Eon.
Ooh, Chevalier.
Chevalier, yeah. So this is, you can find a picture or portrait of them in the National Portrait Gallery. And they lived in the 18th century, really, right up into 1810. And quite a complex life. I'm calling them they, them. They were born male, with male sexual organs,
right?
But kind of lived in France, became a French diplomat, and then was asked or commissioned or whatever it is to go over to Russia and work as a spy in the Russian court. There's a bit of a rumor going around that so the Chevalier would always dress in female attire, and there was a rumor that they presented themselves as a lady in waiting in the Russian court.
So was this like undercover?
Yeah, all sort of secret undercover stuff, and did what they needed to do in Russia. Came back, upset Louis the however many there was. Exiled to London, did loads of fencing. There was then rumours that they were actually, because they were at that point dressing both as a man and a woman. There were rumours going around that they were actually physically a woman.
Right.
And they tried to get back to France, but they would become exiled. And then they managed to persuade themselves to get back into the court. This is like just before Marie Antoinette, so before the end of the monarchy in France, I guess.
Yeah.
They somehow managed to persuade to get back into court, but were then sort of moved over to a small region of North France, I think. There they were, again, a kind of French diplomat. Oh, when they went over to England, they sealed a deal or drafted the deal that basically ended the 7 Years' War.
Oh.
As you do. And then when they came back, they got into the French court, but sort of moved over to this sort of small regional part of France. They then offered to, I think there was some sort of war going on with America, and they offered to like lead an army of soldiers, of women soldiers into battle. But I think the French court declined that. Then they came back to England, it seems, spent a few years living with some old widow, got wounded in a fencing tournament, and then was bedridden for 4 years before they died. That's like a snapshot of their lives. It's quite complicated and
wow. Seems quite yeah, it's really colourful. I love the idea of fencing in drag.
Love it, yeah, love all of that. Have you heard of the Beaumont Society?
Maybe. Remind me.
So they're like a charity that support trans women. I think it's quite old school as a charity, so I think that they give a lot of support to kind of transvestites rather than women that identify as trans women, I guess.
Right.
But nevertheless, they support those people through that and organise social functions and signposting different things. So that's where they took their name from, the Beaumont. So the full name is Charles Genevieve Louis Auguste André Timothy Eon de Beaumont. So that's where the Beaumont Society gets their name.
Oh, amazing. So all named after this person.
Yeah. And beautiful picture of them in the National Portrait Gallery. And I did this performance years and years ago, actually, which was a kind of LGBTQ plus night in the National Portrait Gallery, where I imagined all those portraits were like profiles on Tinder or Grindr, and we pretended that we were sort of having some interaction with them. So I weaved a bit of like fantasy with the kind of details of the portraits of their lives. I ended up singing the Lou Reed song "Take a Walk on the Wild Side," but kind of rewrote the words for the Chevalier.
Amazing.
Which was, yeah.
What was your outfit? Was it half and half, a bit like that portrait you showed me?
No, because I was also having dates with lots of other portraits, so it wasn't just about that portrait.
Okay.
I decorated myself with lots of gold gilt frames and kind of threw them all over myself.
Amazing. What drew you particularly to this person to be What That Really Old Queen this week?
Because actually of that I love the picture, not the one that I've shown you, but there's another. And actually, I always there's a postcard of it which I bought at the National Portrait Gallery. I just always have it on my dressing table, and I look at it quite often. But I've become so familiar with it that I've forgotten the story, really. So I want to refresh myself and just make space for like a trans or non-binary, fencing, French diplomat spy. Because I think
I mean, that sounds like the most colourful life ever. They sound amazing. And we'll post a picture up on our Instagram / Twitter / Facebook.
I probably didn't do their lives justice, but if this acts as a way for people to explore more about their history, then that's a very good thing done.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think they'll describe us when we're gone? Not that I'm expecting to be in the National Portrait Gallery.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
Have you got a Wikipedia page for you?
I don't know. I haven't checked. I don't think so. I bet you have, haven't you?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. Should we do each other? Because I don't think you're allowed to do yourself.
No, I think you have to get someone to do it.
Yeah. So if I do you, you do me?
I mean, that's the kind of job that everyone's going to be up to, really, with social isolation. Everyone's just going to get themselves all...
on Wikipedia.
Prepared for when... Yeah.
Okay, great. Wow. Let's move on to Kinky Blink, or What That Old Kink. And I thought what we could look at today is as we're kind of social distancing and self-isolating, we could look at some solo kinks. I'm
very interested in these.
So I'll put a link to this. This is mainly for women, I think, but I think it can equally be transferred to male or female or whatever you identify as. So the first one is teasing. So I think so basically what we're describing here is having an elaborate wank, isn't it? So
what's that? There's another thing that people talk about it when you're just constantly brinking. You're on the brink constantly, but you never actually climax.
That's edging.
Edging, yes.
Well, we'll get there. This is right at the very beginning, because I think the whole thing about this is that you take it slow. So teasing is a fundamental erotic skill, whether you're playing alone or with another. It's about varying the pace and intensity of sensations, testing your self-control and letting the anticipation build. So rather than starting play by touching your genitals, why not tease yourself for a while? Try the sensations game, which encourages you to explore every part of your body without lingering too long on the naughty bits. You might also try the words game, where you challenge yourself to read down a list of 100 kinky phrases without touching yourself.
When you say this, I've basically got Kylie Minogue singing slow in my head as you read those words.
Yeah, well, you could put that on in the background as you're doing it, as you're teasing yourself. Yeah. I guess one of the ways of teasing yourself is people's nipples are very sensitive, aren't they?
And you can tease your own nipples.
Yeah, exactly. So about a year ago, I bought some nipple suckers, and they
they just like attached immediately to your nipples.
No, they create a vacuum, and they kind of suck your nipples out, which that in itself is quite erotic, but it kind of makes your nipples slightly bigger and a bit more sensitive. So if you're teasing yourself or someone else is teasing your nipples.
So I'm very curious to know more about this. So sometimes when I've been with like someone a bit older than me, their nipples are much fuller and really stick out. And I wondered whether they'd actually seen a lot more action and that makes them so pronounced. Is that something to do with sucking, the suckers or the
Yeah,
activity? Or...
I think they've been using nipple suckers.
Okay.
But also they've probably had a lot of experience. But also different people have different size nipples. So
because my nipples are tiny, and I want to make them bigger.
Yeah.
So this might be the option.
Mine are relatively small compared to others, but also it is quite erotic. Anyway, should we move on? Inspection.
I could talk about that all night.
I mean, should we do all of these tonight? I mean, we're going weekly, so we might not want to give away all the details in one go. Let's do this next one, inspection. So if you enjoyed teasing, try going one step further and visually inspect yourself. The idea here being to explore your body whilst experiencing minimal physical stimulation.
Do you remember the Madonna sex book?
Yes, I do.
Because there's this brilliant photo of Madonna sort of crouching down and just looking at her vagina in a beautiful mirror.
Right. So, I mean, if you've got the Madonna sex book, she's showing you right there how to inspect yourself.
Yeah. I think I've got it. I've got it in a trunk in my bedroom.
My friend Antonia, is very canny, and she bought 2 copies of that book because it was sealed, wasn't it? It was sealed in like a silver foil. Mm. So she bought one so that she could read it, and the other one so she could keep it sealed.
That was a good idea because I remember. So when did it come out? Like mid-90s or something?
Early 90s.
There was this shop in Broadmead, and it was like a sort of upmarket men's clothes shop, but they used to have it in the shop, and me and my boyfriend at the time used to go down and have a look at the book every Saturday.
Oh, in the days when we could go to bookshops and look in books.
It wasn't even a bookshop, it was a clothes shop, but they just had one.
It wasn't even a bookshop.
No, it was a clothes shop.
Oh my God, yeah. Denial. If teasing and inspection turn you on, why not see how far you can stretch your self-control? The squirm game challenges you to watch something erotic and resist touching yourself for as long as possible, with the possible jeopardy of punishment if you falter too soon. Other means of denials is ups and downs game, where you can imagine you're standing in front of a strict disciplinarian obeying their stern instructions. Do you often imagine yourself standing in front of a strict disciplinarian?
Yes, I do, I think. Well, I often am. But probably that's not going to happen for a while now.
No, but you can imagine it. I think we've all got to be creative, haven't we, in our sexual kind of exploits at the moment. The number 4 is self-spanking. I think that's fairly self-explanatory, where you can give yourself a little spank.
Yeah, I can do that.
Number 5 is dildo play.
Yes.
So if you own sex toys, why not mix a little of imagination when you play with them? For instance, if you have a suction base for your toy, try the dildo ritual game and imagine yourself participating in some ancient, profane, erotic rite.
Mm.
Wow. It's getting quite creative, isn't it?
Does it expand on that?
No, it just says participating in some ancient, profane, erotic rite. There is another one. It said a suction dildo or butt plug can also be used to play the throne game. As you sit regally on your intrusion, watching activities staged for your majesty's pleasure. I imagine it would have to be on the telly at the moment. Suction dildos also work well on walls, so why not try recreating the scene described in the fucking on a train game? I don't know where this fucking on a train game is. You might have to search that online.
Well, that sounds like a better idea, yeah, than put one on a wall.
Yeah.
I want to know, what would the pleasure difference between using a butt plug and a dildo be?
I don't know. I guess one's longer than the... I guess it depends how big they are, really.
Mm.
I think butt plugs are there to kind of stretch your aperture so you can get used to bigger things going up there.
I'm wondering whether I should have bought that instead.
I'm sure there's still plenty of butt plugs online that you can buy to get delivered.
People on stockpiling butt plugs, yeah.
Well, I have, but I don't know if anybody else has. Right, porn remixing. Many like to play whilst looking at sexy images, but why stop there? Rather than just consuming images passively, why not unleash your creativity and start remixing them?
How would you remix?
Well, this is about drawing images. So one idea is to trace a background picture first, say of someone standing in the corner of the headmaster's study, then switch to a new image, maybe of yourself, and use the same paper, and you'll be able to create a composite and add yourself to the original image. Choose any imagery you like, and the only limit is your imagination. I actually quite like that. That's quite crafty.
I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
You could actually sort of freeze the porn video, do a tracing of it, and then put a picture of your own face on it.
Superimpose yourself in there. I mean, I'm sure there's ways of doing that on a computer now. You could probably, put your face on someone else's body in a porn movie.
Does it say anything about phone sex?
No, it doesn't. And I was going to say to you, I wonder if phone sex will start to become a thing again.
I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that with you.
No, but do you remember those phone sex lines like 0898 50 50 50 of the 90s, before there was Grindr or Gaydar? You used to ring up a gay sex line and chat to people online and have phone sex with them.
Yeah.
So maybe that will be a new thing. I guess phone sex, video sex.
Video sex, yeah.
I've never really been into video sex before, but, I might have to get into it.
I think you will.
Anyway, I'm going to leave the rest of the list for next time, because I'm sure we're going to need to string these out, depending on how long it takes for this crisis to be over. Anyway, we are going to have a little break there, and we'll be back after this. Okay, so we're back. Queens of Coronas, or Corona. This is a kind of has a profound effect on gay life, this. Because a lot of gay life is socialising, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's about finding your gang, really, which they're not everywhere.
No.
Yeah. So once you've found them, they are your family, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's quite difficult to be away from them, because they're not conventional family in that you live with them. But we get together with them in bars and clubs, which now we can't go to. There's no hookups, really, if you're practicing social distancing. And so you can't really see your support group or friends, or go to the theatre or drag shows. It kind of hits our community quite hard, this, I think.
I mean, I think it hits everyone hard in different ways, but
totally,
it's very quantifiable, the way that it hits our community.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why I think it's really important to stay in contact with all of your friends. And you, if you can still go for a walk with them, please do. And video chats, phone calls, maybe group phone calls if there's a little group of you. Didn't you go to some kind of online events?
I've been to 2 tonight. So I'm in my studio group at the Watershed. On Friday, there's always Friday drinks.
Right.
And so they organised an online group where everyone was sat either in their room or their workplace, having a glass of wine or beer. and then I went to another online place where there was 4 of us just sort of chatting, really. So yeah, and that was called something like Fancy Friday. So everyone was dressed up a bit, which is why I'm wearing a pussy bow. So that was kind of quite nice, really, just to dress up. And I put a bit of makeup on and just made sure that and had a shave as well, because I think otherwise I won't shave really during this.
Yeah. And I quite like
it. Makes me feel cleaner to have a shaved face.
I quite like that idea of dressing up for a video meeting or party or event. Just gives you a sense of occasion. I think a friend of ours, Charlie, who was with us for our Christmas show, him and his lodger dressed up for dinner, and they posted some pictures on online. But they dressed up in really like fancy dress almost.
I love.
So if you're dressing up for dinner or like a conference call, please send us your pictures of you dressed up fancy, wandering around your home. Of course, the other thing that we have is telly and the internet to watch TV shows and films. Have you got any recommendations? What do you think you'll be watching?
I'm really enjoying Penance on Channel 5.
Oh yeah, you made me start watching that.
Yeah, this kind of middle-aged woman, her son dies, and then this young, really hot guy comes into their family's life through a kind of grieving group, and starts to date this woman's son. But then the older woman, the mother, and this young man have this kind of real strong connection, and they end up having sex. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm going to watch the next one. But the young man's really hot. He
is really hot. Yeah. Again, doesn't help sexual frustration. But I was thinking that there should be some things which kind of lift your spirits. So I'm going to start watching The Golden Girls again, I think, which is one of my favourites.
Yeah.
I have the box sets on iTunes, so I might start watching them from the start.
There's loads of them.
Exactly.
Short, so you can slip in a couple every now and again.
I love slipping in a couple every now and again. Any other? I think I quite like to rewatch some of the Carry On films as well.
Yeah, good idea. I'd like to watch some. Betty Davis is my favourite, so I'd like to try and find places where I can watch some of her old films.
Yeah, I've got a few DVDs of her. I might have to dust off the DVD player and start watching some of those. Anyway, Shnack Out of It is slightly redundant because we're not together to taste things. But I thought we could give some suggestions for recipes that people could do.
Yeah.
And I found a recipe on the BBC Good Food app and website. I've actually done some voiceovers for their podcast.
I found one that's going to accompany your recipe.
Right.
I just made mine yesterday, but I'm looking at the actual recipe now, and I did miss out a key ingredient.
Oh, did you? What was the key ingredient?
Pearl barley.
Oh, okay. Actually, this isn't on the Good Food website. It's on a website called Kirby's Cravings. And this is for a yeast-free bread. So if you're running out of bread, you can make this yeast-free. And you use all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, water, vegetable oil, or melted butter. And it makes quite a pale bread when finished, but it's almost kind of a rustic, country, crusty loaf. And you don't even need a bread tin, so you just kind of make the dough, knead it, and put it quite flat in the oven, and then it rises, and so it makes a bit like a farmhouse kind of roundy loaf. But I'll put a link to this recipe in the description, and I'll also put the recipe up on our blog on our website. So the recipe for the cake that we had last week and the article for the Prague Sex Museum is on our website under the blog page. So we'll put both these recipes up. So what's your recipe, Tommy?
My recipe is from the Jack Monroe recipe book, cooking on a bootstrap, not jockstrap.
No, that's our recipe book, cooking on a jockstrap.
And Jack Monroe's great, and they've got a book that is about, like, their latest book is about, like, tins, cooking with tins. So it's really useful in this time because their kind of like ethos is like all of the stuff that you'll find in tins is actually just as much nutritional value, if not more, because when it's put in a tin, it's peak nutritional value.
Oh, wow.
But this specific is not from that book. It's a fresh recipe, and it uses broccoli, but a broccoli stalk. Oh. So I thought it would be it's quite useful in this time when we might be running low of things or trying to make the most of things, and you just cut off the broccoli stalk, cut it into tiny pieces, boil it up with some chicken stock and some pearl barley, which I forgot about. Then just add a little bit of yogurt, and then you put put it through a pan blender, right. And it's just like a delicious nutritional soup that would accompany your bread perfectly.
Oh yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. That's a top tip.
And Jack actually also does another recipe for bread, which I've tried a few times. It does use yeast, but it's just plain flour and a bottle of beer. And the beer acts as a sort of fermenting agent thing, really. And it just makes a beautiful, big, crusty loaf.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, so there's lots of little kind of improvisational ways that we can make our lives a little bit better, and we can snack on some food. And as we've got time, you can make stuff.
I've got a slow cooker as well. It's in my slow arousal techniques. I can be making a vegetable stew.
You could be cooking up a vegetable stew. Self-exciting.
I've got no meat in house as such. All I've got is tins of sardines and tuna, because I don't really buy meat to eat in the house. I always just eat meat outside of the house.
Yeah. Do you think you might buy some?
I don't really know. I don't have the urge to. I just think of it as something like I would probably only ever eat meat with a Sunday roast if I go out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, people are still delivering. Maybe they'll deliver a Sunday roast.
That would be nice.
I was actually thinking of supporting some restaurants by actually ordering takeout from them, like at the weekend or something, one night a week.
Are they still doing that?
Some restaurants are still doing takeouts, so because takeouts can still be delivered to people, and I think that's quite a nice way of supporting local businesses as well.
Someone in the Fancy Friday party, the online party that I was just at, was going to go round to the local pub and buy the wine off them, because apparently some supermarkets have sold out of wine, and that's a good way of supporting the pubs when they're out, if you can.
Yeah, and some breweries are actually doing deliveries to people's homes. Like some of the smaller breweries are actually going to do like home deliveries. So that might be another way of keeping some of those businesses going, which are obviously going to be affected by all of this. I listened to a podcast on Podbean today, which was called Coronavirus, Fact or Fiction. But it was quite good because it had Deepak Chopra on there today, and he was being quite mindful about how you can meditate and keep yourself together and cope with this weird change of life that we're all going through. And with that in mind, I've got some inspirational quotes to keep us going. And some of these are from Mark Twain. So this one's not from Mark Twain. This is just an inspirational quote. It says, "Sometimes we're tested not to show our weaknesses, but to discover our strengths." And I think that's a really good quote for this time, because I think, we've all got a bit of time on our hands. So we can do some of the things which we have been putting off, or we've thought we'd never had time to, like if you're going to write that book or that movie or that play or paint that picture.
I'm worried about that, though. All these awful people writing plays.
Well, it might, but there might be some brilliant ones.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
Shakespeare wrote King Lear when when nobody could go to the theatre because of the plague.
Well, there you go.
Hashtag just saying.
Yeah. So the human race has one really effective weapon, and that is laughter. So I think that's another thing. We just need to keep our spirits high through this. And Mark Twain wrote, the best way to cheer yourself up is to try and cheer somebody else up. So I think all of those things about keeping in contact, us doing this podcast, other people doing podcasts, is all to try and lift people's spirits and cheer them up.
Mark Twain is, I don't know much about Mark Twain, but he's featured rather heavily.
Well, I think Mark Twain should be one of our What That Really Old Queen, because he's rumoured to be bisexual as well, or gay, I think.
Well, I found I was always, as a child, I was always in love with Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
I had a book with Tom Sawyer, and it had a picture of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn on it. And just the way that Huckleberry Finn was described, I was just like so drawn to that character.
Yeah, well, see, you fell in love with a fictional character, which is what we spoke about last time.
I forgot about that. I think it's the dungaree. Yeah. It's the dungarees and the big straw hat.
Well, there you go. You could dress up in your dungarees and a big straw hat and be Huckleberry Finn one day. Have a Huckleberry Finn day.
I will.
Right. I've got some Queens of Agony questions, and then I'm trying to make them as apt as they can be for the time period we're living through at the moment. So, dear old queens, have you ever masturbated and the guy you thought wasn't all that good looking pops up in your fantasy? This has legitimately happened to me about 4 times. Guys that I thought weren't attractive at all have popped up in my mental fantasy while I masturbate, and I've gotten off to it. Have you ever experienced this?
Yes. I can't think of an incident, but I know that that's happened to me. Immediately when you started saying that, I was like, yes.
So you may be having a fantasy about someone, and then somebody else pops into your mind, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah, I find masturbation, like, it's not my go-to thing. It's like a thing because I can't sleep a lot, and so that's, it's 5 o'clock, might as well have a wank. So it's just a kind of like, but maybe having this conversation has changed my view of it, and I should rethink everything.
Wow, it is kind of needs must at the moment, isn't it? So have you ever heard of the term work hot?
No.
So it means when either when you're at work or you're in a certain place that you go to regularly, there's no one else around who's particularly hot, so you kind of pick out the hottest person who's there. And that's who you kind of fantasize about. And it wouldn't be someone that you probably usually would fancy, but because they're kind of like the best of a bad bunch, they're work hot. Not that any of us are going to work at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to have that piece of furniture hot.
Yeah, that inanimate object hot. Okay, let's move on. Dear old queens, my straight friend sends me nudes. It's really confusing me since he knows I'm gay. We even joke around and say he's my bit on the side and we're married. But I think it's really odd that he sends me nudes but hasn't truly made a move on me. We haven't done anything with each other, but I'm definitely open to it. What do you suggest I do? Do you think he's curious or just likes the attention?
Well, I would send nudes back.
I think it's only polite, isn't it, to send nudes back if someone's sending you nudes? I mean, it's gay culture to do that.
I mean, that's the obvious option, isn't it?
Yeah. I think this guy obviously fancies him, doesn't he? It's very odd for someone to send nudes to someone you don't fancy, isn't it?
But also, I'm very aware of that situation where someone straight is just enjoying that attention. Like, that's a very familiar scenario. So it's not guaranteed by any means.
No.
But what have you got to lose to send a nude back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Go for it. Well, while you can, I mean, you know, if you're not actually interacting with this person at the moment during this crisis, if he's sending you nudes, send nudes back. See if you're getting off individually to it, and then maybe when this crisis is over, you'll actually get off together.
I think I might stop putting sort of semi-nudes up on Instagram.
Well, I already do that.
I know you do. Yeah.
To relieve the boredom. So yeah, watch out for some more semi-nudes and maybe dressed up in different outfits.
Does it give you a bit of a self-esteem boost?
I think it does. To someone who's had body dysmorphia for most of his life, I've never really felt that I was attractive or my body was attractive. And to kind of overcome that and put pictures of myself up semi-naked, and then people saying they like it is something quite gratifying, and it does boost your self-esteem. And it's not, I'm not doing it because I think I look beautiful.
Yeah, I like seeing people do that, and I think it's like, I think people do it for different reasons, but it feels like positive.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to be body positive.
It's especially when it's not someone that is like just that sort of gym bunny type person.
Yeah, I think it's about being body positive and about putting different kinds of bodies out there. So it's not because I think I'm an Adonis or beautiful. It's that people like different things and they like different bodies, and you know, lots of things are beautiful, and each individual person is beautiful, and it's about getting over those inhibitions that you have.
I think that Christina Aguilera's "Beautiful" song is like the best pop song there is.
It is a very good pop song. I like Britney Spears' "Toxic" though, which is
good choice too.
It's a different kind of pop song, different message.
Yeah, mine's more positive. Affecting. Yours is more anti.
I've got 2 more questions. We've got 4 questions today.
Wow.
So, dear old queens, I want to try new stuff with my boyfriend. I've been dating my boyfriend for about 10 months. Everything's going good so far, and we have a great relationship. We have a good sex life too. However, he's into some really hardcore shit in bed. He likes it when his dom actually hits him to the point of bruising. He told me all of this stuff a few months ago while we were drunk and talking about our kinks randomly. He also told me that he doesn't expect me to do it because no one would do besides the guy that he dated in the past. I've been thinking about it and I want to try it with him, but I don't know how to approach it and I'm feeling kind of nervous. What do you recommend?
I mean, I know friends that have been in that situation, and I think it's a real gradual process, like to reassure that person that their ideas about what they like they're perverted, but they could be good perverted if they're with the right person in the right context.
Yeah.
I don't think they should feel nervous because they haven't got anything to feel nervous about, because they're not suggesting something that would be pushed out of the conversation because the other partner have that desire as well. I mean, it could be the case that he doesn't want to do it with him, but I think it's worth broaching that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say like that would be a kind of good thing to do or talk about when you're on holiday. Obviously, we're not on holiday now, but there is an element of it that could feel like a holiday if we reframed the way that we think about this situation that we're in. So I would say seize the moment.
Yeah, and just talk to him about it. The thing is that there's no expectations there from your partner because he's not expecting you to do it. So if you do give it a go, then you know, anything that you do in that situation is going to be a bonus for him because he obviously gets off on that.
And you can always go back to vanilla.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you don't want to do that extreme stuff all the time.
No.
I don't. Sometimes I just want to cuddle. Okay. Dear old queens, I've been getting texts from older Tinder dates, Grindr dates, and hookups wanting to just chat and reconnect now that we're all under lockdown. I've had 4 people contact me that I haven't heard from in years, or started talking to me years ago and never met. All of them saying stuff like, we should hang out after this is all over. What do you think about that?
Well, they could just be searching around looking for someone that actually is not adhering to the rules of social distancing, and just sniffing it out as a potential for now.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just giving it some, like they're sat in their flat and they're kind of thinking about lovers past and present and future. It's weird because I've been thinking a lot about 2 past boyfriends in this situation and just wondering how they're coping with it. And they haven't entered my head for months and months. Like, I haven't thought about them. And then all of this happens and I think, I sort of feel tempted to text them.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably won't, but I'm curious to know what they're doing and how they're coping.
I don't think this is a real issue. I think this whole thing has made us rethink our lives and what happened before and what's going to happen afterwards. And I think some people are thinking maybe, you're the one that got away. They actually really liked you, but they didn't take a risk on you. So I would see this. I would see that as a compliment, and I think if you've got time to reconnect with people, why not reconnect with people? Maybe that romance or whatever kind of relationship you could have, that sex-mance or FB that went by the wayside, could be still in your life in the future after this is all over, and actually reconnecting with them now might be a really good thing.
And just extending on that, actually, that could be something that could be really positive that came out of this whole thing, is that you could look over, it doesn't have to be lovers, it could be just friends that you've lost by the wayside, and think, I miss them in my life and I want to reconnect with them. And this is the time really just to check in.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to have friends that you haven't seen for a couple of months and then for them just to filter out of your lives. Yeah. But this could be the moment that you're just checking in with everyone. I've been checking in with all of my usual friends, but I feel like I want to push that, extend that out really and just make sure everyone's okay.
Totally.
I know.
So I think we need to find ways of making this very weird, not great situation and turn it into a positive. And I think reconnecting with people that you've maybe lost contact with, checking in on them, making sure they're okay, is an amazing thing that can happen because we've got time to do it now. Plus all the creativity that can happen during this period. All the things that you've been putting off that you keep saying you haven't got time to do, you've got time to do them now. Well, as long as they're based within your house.
Yeah. I've changed my room around, so it's half bedroom and then it's half like an exercise and studio room, so I can actually sort of make performances in there.
Amazing. Are you going to do some televised, like film performances?
Yeah, I'm trying to work out how that would be because I don't want it to like feel too weird, but I'm working out the best option because, I need to make some money out of this situation because the way I make money really is through gig economy. Yeah,
we're both in the same boat with that. So like I said before, if you can like, share, subscribe, tell people that if you think they would like our podcast, to listen to our podcast. And if you're not in financial difficulties, if you can subscribe to our Patreon account, even if it was just like £1 a month or something, it would just help us cover the costs of this podcast and help us keep it going through this crisis. Anyway, on that note, I think we might have come to the end of our episode.
Oh, that's a shame.
So, sorry, Tommy. But we'll be back next week because we're going to do them weekly while this silliness goes on. Yeah. The mad world that we suddenly find ourselves in. Anyway, thank you, Tommy, for being on video chat with me while we record What That Old Queen. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you. Say goodbye, Tommy.
Goodbye, Tommy.
And we'll see you next time on What That Old Queen. You have been listening to What That Old Queen, presented by Tom Marshman and Bernie Hodges. The show was produced by Bernie Hodges in January 2020 for Hodge Podcasting. If you would like to discuss sponsoring this podcast, or you'd like to be a guest, or you just have a question for the Old Queens, please email hello@thatoldqueen.com or find us on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter.